When people are looking to buy Toronto condos, most people don't even know where to start. And that's really fair. When you think of someone buying their first property, most of the time it's going to be a condo. So the people looking at buying condos are going to be first-time buyers, not as educated throughout the process. This likely will be their first rodeo. And when we look at condos, there's different neighborhoods, the rents and purchasing power changes every single month. Different types of floor plans. There's a ton of different ways you can go to when looking at buying a Toronto condo or renting a Toronto condo. So with that being said, what we do every single month is I like to break down the Toronto condo numbers to either rent or buy different types of Toronto condos, studios, 1 bedrooms, 1 dens, and 2 bedrooms, just to give people a sense of what's going on in the market, see what trends are going on. And so people, when they get out there and they start looking at properties, they can shop with confidence. And before we begin, my name is Gabriela Batista from Homes into Reality, and I'm a local real estate agent in the Toronto area. I help a ton of first-time buyers with their first-time buying goals. I help a ton of renters in the area. The idea is I'm very passionate of educating first-time buyers throughout the process. So even if someone is a year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, a couple months away from buying their first home, I want to do my best to educate them throughout the process. So when they are ready to make that first really big move, I'm there to support them. I'm there to help them, and they can shop with confidence. If you want to check it out, I have a weekly video on Instagram every single Wednesday. I have a weekly YouTube video, which you're watching right now, every single Thursday or Friday. And I have a weekly newsletter on every Tuesday going out to my first-time buyers in the market. So if you want to stay tuned, if you want to book an appointment with me, look in the description to sign up, and we can talk more real estate goals. I'm going to start by talking about our Toronto rent numbers. And when it comes to Toronto rent numbers and even purchasing numbers, we do talk about the median price point for the sole reason that we don't want our numbers to be skewed by averages. There are luxury properties out there for these bigger units. So as a first-time buyer or a first-time renter, we're probably going to be looking at the lower end to the median price point when it comes to these properties. So let's start with our studio apartments. When it comes to studios, again, our smallest layout, you're looking at your one big room, your kitchen, your dining room, your bedroom is all in one spot. But when it comes to studios, you're looking at rents being fairly flat. They've been kind of stagnating around $2,100 for the past several months. Since October, they've been about around $2,100 a month as a median price point. They haven't changed a ton. I am seeing a little bit more supply in studios. They're not turning over as quickly. And that also is probably because there's not enough demand here. But the price points of studios really haven't changed month over month a ton. We're sitting at a median price point of just under $2,100. And our most common layout would be the 1 bedrooms, which we're moving on to. When it comes to 1 bedrooms, there was 683 different units in all of Toronto that rented out last month. So it's the highest of all the floor plans we're going to talk about today. And I would say numbers are still fairly flat, a little bit on a decline. If you're looking at last month's numbers, you were at $2,387 as a median price point, and now we're down to $2,363. So a slight decline of $20. Not enough where I think it's a huge trend. We'll have to see how things are going. But similar to the studios, you're finding that some of the awkward layouts or smaller layouts aren't renting as quickly. With 1 bedrooms, the good ones always go very quickly at really great prices. But when it comes to, let's say, your, I would say, common units, your cookie cutter units, your very replacement level units, they're going to be staying on the market a little bit longer when it comes to rents. And speaking of numbers that haven't moved a ton, we're looking at the 1+ dens. 1+ dens are just under 629 units have rented in all of Toronto that were 1+ dens from last month. So a very similar number, the amount wise. But you're not looking at a ton of changing in prices. I think they're down about $20. The median price point from last month was $2,577, and the median price point of this month for 1+ dens is $2,562. So you're down just over $10, about $15. You're down when it comes to median price points. Not enough where I think it's a trend. It could just be a one-off. But like I said, you're seeing maybe more units sit in the market compared to past months where things were turning over a little bit quicker. But this is what a typical slower, earlier in the year market is. The good things are going to go, and the things that are maybe a little bit replacement level and not great dens are going to stay in the market, and they're going to trade at a slightly lower value. And the next floor plan and the last floor plan we're going to talk to when it comes to Toronto rents is your 2-bedroom. And your 2-bedroom is my favorite layout for the sense that it's the most amount of space you're going to get. Usually the best layouts you're going to get, not very awkward, a little bit more open, but they tend to vary a little bit more in terms of, let's say, your smaller 2-bedrooms and your much bigger 2-bedrooms. But the median price point of 2-bedrooms have actually stayed absolutely flat. There was $3,000 last month for a median 2-bedroom price in January. And then this month, once again, it's at $3,000 as a median price point. So overall, when it comes to Toronto rents, it's been fairly flat when it comes to Toronto condos. And that's good news for a renter because you actually want to be leasing in a pretty stable market. You don't want to get behind the curve where prices tend to be pushed up, because when prices are pushed up, you don't even know it, because most of the times properties are listed, let's say, at $2,000 and they lease out for $2,100 because there's so much competition. So the good news about a flat market is usually what properties are listed at is what they're going to lease at. Maybe $50 lower, $50 higher. So for a renter, that's good news that you have, a good sense of where the market is when you're looking online. Now, talking about purchasing condos, these numbers are a little bit different. I find they change much more month over month when it comes to Toronto condo numbers. And that's just because it follows more of I would say a real estate cycle where your spring market gets very, very tight and the prices may rise and may fall during the summer. So there's more patterns when it comes to this type of stuff. What you'll be noticing is when I put up these graphs is on a year-over-year basis, there might be some similarities, and we'll talk about those, of course. The first type of apartment we're going to talk about is your studio condos. And when it comes to studio condos, it tends to be a little bit less of a pattern. We'll throw up the graph over here. And the big problem with having studio apartments is there's not a ton of volume trading on these properties. Anywhere between, I would say, 15 to 30 studios sell every single month. And that's much lower than the other properties we're going to talk about. But then again, we look at the studio graph and it's kind of all over the place. It really isn't like a flat trend line. And that's just something that is a virtue of not having enough data to analyze and getting a sense of, we can overall see the market has suffered when it comes to studio apartments over several months. But if you look on a month-to-month basis, it isn't a strong data point that we can look at. Now, when we look at median price point of a one bedroom, we did see a bit of an increase from last month. Last month, we were at a price point of $559,000, while this month, when it comes to February, we saw a median price point of $574,000. And that is a bit of an increase. It definitely is significant. What's interesting to look at, it does follow a trend from last year where there was a bit of a spike in one bedroom prices. And that makes sense. There's not a ton of inventory on the market, and there's a good amount of buyers who start looking in the beginning of the year in a typical seasonal real estate market. So that's going to push some pressure on, less supply, more demand. It's going to push up prices a little bit because people are kind of bidding for those properties. Not as sharp of a spike as you saw last year, which they really shot up, you see in this graph. But definitely there has been an increase in activity when it comes to one bedrooms in Toronto from last month. Now, when we move up to 1+ dens are definitely seeing a little bit more of a spike. And I think if you pull up the graph over here, it's very reminiscent of what happened last year, where that same amount of spike happened. In January, we saw a price point of $617,000 for a median price point of a one bedroom plus den. And then for the price point this month, for February 2023, we saw a price point of $646,000. That's an increase of just under, I would say, under $30,000. So it's not a small increase. It could be because of a bigger layout, more people looking at 1+ dens, people moving up from studios and one bedrooms, moving up to one den, so maybe more of a demand there versus the smaller layouts. But it's definitely interesting seeing that spike, and again, following the trend of a spring market that we've seen in years past. Now, lastly, looking at your 2-bedroom layouts, and similar to the 1+ dens, it follows a very similar trend line to 2022. It's jumped a lot from January to February, similar to 2022. You're looking at a median price point of last month, $690,000, while the median price point of this month is $761,000. So a very big spike. I will say the jump isn't as significant considering the fact that the month before in December, we were at $725,000. So might have been a little bit of a drop in January, just to kind of even out in February. But it's interesting to note, again, less supply. People maybe want those bigger layouts instead of the 1+ dens, instead of the one bedrooms, instead of the studios. So that's maybe a little bit more of an upward trend on demand there. But it's following a similar suit. The big caveat is obviously, for all these properties, we saw a pretty sharp decline from last year's numbers year over year. You're in all cases pretty down year over year in this type of stuff, but it's still following that seasonality when it comes to Toronto real estate. One quick summary with the purchasing numbers. If I look over to last month's stats, in January only 14 studios sold, but in February 26 studios sold, so almost double there. And then for one bedrooms, 140 sold in January versus 215 sold in February, so a big jump as well. And for 1+ dens, 136 sold in January versus 229 sold in February, so another big jump. And the same thing when it comes to 2 bedrooms. You're looking at 171 sold in January versus 225 sold in February. So the good news is, well, not the good news, but the one thing you can analyze is the 2 bedrooms have the most demand there, those bigger layouts. That could kind of show maybe why there's a bit more of a sharper incline in prices there, because there's more demand, more pent-up demand going into the spring market. But there definitely is a real big boost in more listings or that are being sold versus last month, with a lot of properties were staying more stale. And one last number I always like to check is your months of inventory in Toronto. I have a graph that will pull up over here. The blue being all of Toronto versus the orange being all of C1 downtown Toronto condos. And C1 tends to be your biggest condo pocket when it comes to downtown. So I like to analyze that one. You can tell the months of inventory is a little bit higher than the average of Toronto. Then it looks like there's still more listings going on there. You see that it spiked down from January to February. That's because more listings were sold. Months of inventory essentially means is how many months of sales need to happen for us to sell all of our inventory out. And it already shot down this month because there's more activity, maybe not as many listings come in the market. So that demand definitely is outpacing supply when it comes to this number here. So a very quick summary, my last two cents when it comes to the condo market is rents still continue to stay flat. It's a good news for tenants because they can have confidence in what they're shopping for, what the price points are. You're not seeing stupid prices. You're seeing very realistic prices out there. You might be able to get some deals still on condos. I've been able to find some good rental deals for people. It depends on what type of, how long the property's been there, but I've definitely been able to find, they'll say under asking price points when it comes to rents. You'll see sometimes that there is a little bit more competition for rentals out there, but it's still a pretty steady rental market. For the purchasing market, there has been that uptick in demand, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because it's very seasonality. We're getting to the market that always happens every single year, but it gives a sense maybe how high these prices can go. If last year was the peak in February for these condo prices, are we going to see the peak with these numbers? Who knows? That's something we want to look out from. But on the purchasing standpoint, these numbers are important to track on a month-to-month basis, especially if we're making a move within the next 6 months. And March will be interesting to see what type of trends come out of this. But overall, that's the summary of the condo market. I think it's a relatively healthy condo market, and it's an opportunity in the condo market now where you can, maybe find some prices that are more attractive than last year. So that's my 2 cents in the condo market there. What I will say, a big thank you to people who listen this far. What I do love about doing the YouTube content is I can ramble on, and not all of my thoughts are full. Sometimes I gotta think on the spot, and I think that's showing, maybe the way I like to push content here. It's all very raw, all very natural, all very close from the chest. None of it's really edited down. I want to give you my honest thoughts when it comes to this type of stuff. So thank you for sticking around and listening to my content. I've been getting some really good feedback on it, so I appreciate that. So it's already exciting. Thank you for tuning in for this week's video. Again, if you want to watch some of my YouTube content, I have every single end of the week, Thursday or Friday, I have a video coming out every single week. I have Instagram content coming out every single Wednesday talking about the real estate market in Toronto, a little bit of a shorter form content. And then I have my weekly newsletter to first-time buyers every single Tuesday called Future Homeowners, getting people involved in the real estate market so they can understand. If you're in a situation now where you're maybe a year out or 2 years out of getting into the real estate market, I would touch base because that's where my best work comes. I can keep people posted on the real estate market so they know what's going on. So let's say in 2 years, you already make that big move. They're maybe as educated as I am, if not even more educated than I am on the real estate market because they've listened so much or they've learned so much and they've asked so many questions. So I do my best to share this information with people, and I hope I can do so with a lot of future homeowners. Anyways, thank you so much. Gabriela Batista, Homes into Reality. Talk soon. See you next week.